Good day, everyone. Good day, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to another data analysis session brought to you by UrBizEdge. So for today's session, we're having different security in MSBI, that's Microsoft Business Intelligence. The host is myself, Temidayo Omoniyi. Um, so this webinar is brought to you by the collaboration between MHX Analytics and Enterprise and UrBizEdge rather. So this is brought by the collaboration between MHX Analytics and UrBizEdge. So for some, MHX Analytics is a data analytics company located in Canada. If you're interested in taking data analysis courses like Excel, Power BI, Excel for big data, also financial modeling, SQL, and also Python in data analysis, you can check out MHX Analytics. The main motto is just basically they're committed to giving the clients the business intelligence edge by using tools they already have, tools like Excel, Power BI, Python, and other data analytics tools. So ourselves, UrBizEdge, we're registered Excel consulting, financial modeling, business intelligence, data analysis, and also enterprise solution firm in Nigeria. We specialize in helping companies and high-value professionals be on top of their business data. We're also the developer of some data analytics tools, which you can find in Microsoft Office store, such as the Nigerian finance market analysis tool, which is found in the Microsoft Office store. We're also the developer of the Nigerian stock analysis dashboard. We're also a training company. We have branches in Lagos, Abuja, and also in Port Harcourt. So this is our calendar for some of our upcoming training. On the 16th of May, we're having Python for data analysis. You can also go to the website and get more information. Okay, so myself, Temidayo, I'm a Microsoft certified data analyst. We specialize in data analysis, business intelligence, and also data science with over 3 years combined experience. I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer. I'm currently a team lead and BI analyst for UrBizEdge. I enjoy creating educative content on YouTube and also other platforms. You can also find me on Microsoft forums. I enjoy writing code and automating processes using the Microsoft Power Automate. So I'll just stop sharing my screen for a moment and I'll talk about today's program, today's section actually. So let me just share my screen a little bit again. And I will share just a little bit. Okay, so today we'll be talking about securities in Power BI, and Power BI is actually equipped with so many securities, but we'll be talking about some few ones, such as the row level security, the column level security, the object level security, and also the user access. So I'll just start by explaining what is row level security. So basically, this is just the process of restricting access to a database row, thereby allowing user to have access to information if they are granted permission. So this is just like, it works in the sense that, let me give a bigger picture right now. I have a database, right? And I only want I have a database and I've created a report from that database, right? So now I'm sharing that report to people in my organization. But now I don't want everyone to be able to see some certain information. What I mean by that, what a manager will see is not what let's say an head of a department will see, right? Or let's say just a normal accountant will see. So that's where role level security comes to play. So the idea for role level security is just basically to restrict people from seeing information based on the hierarchy or based on their roles, right? So you just like, let me give you a bigger picture now. I am a data analyst for Coca-Cola worldwide. Everyone knows Coca-Cola is everywhere in the world, right? So and Coca-Cola is basically everywhere in the world. So I'm a data analyst. I've created the entire Power BI report for the entire sales of Coca-Cola for that particular year, like from all the branches, from all the regions, in just a single report, right? So now I want to now start sharing the report, like sharing it to the Coca-Cola manager. So I know that there's a manager, there's an head of region in Africa, there's also an head of region in South America, there's also an head of region in North America and Europe and so on and so forth, right? So I built a single report, right? But now I've shared the report with multiple regional managers. So what I created now, I want to create a restriction that, okay, when the report that I did for the entire Coca-Cola sales gets to the regional manager for South America, it should only be able to see only South America data, right? So that means I've created a restriction that, okay, as soon as it gets to him and as soon as he logins with his credential, it's only going to see South America information. But mind you, right, the report I created was the entire Coca-Cola sales, like Coca-Cola sales for that year. Well, now it's going to the manager or to the head of region South America. It's only seeing what South America data. So that's how row level security works. It filters certain information. So it gives like a restriction to see certain kinds of information. And it's actually very up when you're trying to do things like data privacy and everything. Like you don't want some people to see some certain kinds of information. So row level security should be your best friend. So there are different types, right? We have you have the RLS, which people call row level security. So it's in two forms. We have the static and also have the dynamic. So I'll explain the static, I'll also explain the dynamic. We also have another kind of security, which is called the column level security. So this one basically you're creating a restriction on a particular column, right? So you know database has what rows and column. The first one was row, so I'm creating a restriction based on the rows, right? So the second one now is column level security. I'm creating a restriction based on the column. And the third one is object level security. So this one is basically I'm creating a restriction on the entire data table itself. And lastly, I'll talk about user access, where you have the admin, you have the contributor, you have the member, you also have the viewer, right? Okay, so I will just stop sharing my screen and I'll open my Power BI now. Okay. Let me off my camera so we can see better. Okay. So I'm opening my Power BI and I'm going to publish. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So I should assume everyone here can see my screen. Okay, so I have a very simple report now, right? So this is just these are not real life data though, but that's okay. I'm just assuming this is Google sales for the whole year, but this is definitely not a real life data. So let's assume now I have different branches, right? I have Ikoyi branch, I have Lekki branch, I have Bagada branch, I have Ibadan and Sulere. So I want to create a role level security that, okay, when I send this data now to this individual manager, they should only be able to see the data that is corresponding to them. That's the data that actually concern them. So if I'm sending this entire report to the Lekki manager, what the Lekki manager is after is wants to see what sales are happening in what Lekki. Are you getting? If I send the same report now to the Ikoyi manager, what Ikoyi manager is after is I want to know what sales are happening where in Ikoyi. So that's where the role level security comes to play now. So if I'm going to start now, if I go to the table view, so that's the data view. You know, Power BI, we have three major views. We have the report view, we have the data view, we have the model view, right? So let's start from the data view. Let me just cancel this. Okay. So in the data view, I've actually done all the modeling before now, so we won't waste time with the modeling. I just want to show you the role level security and everything. I have the branch data. I have a calendar table. This is a calendar. This is a calculated table. I have which one is this? The desktop. I have the MITSA. Okay, I have the sales data. So I'm mostly concerned about the sales data and the sales target itself. So I have the sales data, I have the sales targets. Okay, so what I want to do now for the sales data, you can see, right? I have different branches here. I have the Bagada, I have the Ibadan, I have the Lekki, I have the Ikoyi, I have the Sulere. So I'm going to create like a role of security that, okay, I'll create a role of security for Bagada manager, for Ibadan manager, for Ikoyi manager, for Lekki manager, and also for Sulere manager. So how does it work now? That's the next question, right? So I'll go to my report view. For my report view, the first place you need to go to is you go to your modeling tab. This is your modeling ribbon here, right? If you look at my screen, you can see that I have two options for security, right? I have what? The model manage rows and also have what? View as. Because I want to create a row now. So I'll do what? I'll say, I'll click on what? Manage rows. Right, that's the first thing I'll click on now. Okay, now let me now start creating the row. So I'll start creating the rows by saying the first row should be general manager. I'll say, okay, this first row should be general manager. General manager. Because I'm the general manager, definitely I should not have any restriction. I should be able to see the entire data. So definitely there will not be any restriction for the general manager. So the next one I can do, I can say, okay, for the next one, which is, I can say, okay, this person should be Lekki manager, right? So because Lekki is in the branch data, because the branch data is actually the dimension table. I know my facts table is my sales data, right? Because it's my main table. And it's also what increases with calculations and everything. But I know my dimension table is my branch data. So I'll go to my branch data. Yeah. Can I see this 3 dots over here? I'll click on the 3 dots and I'll select add filters and I'll set my filters based on the branch, right? So I'll just type out the branch, which is what Lekki. So I say Lekki, right? And as I type Lekki and I click on what? I check the box and I say save. Okay. Oh, let me just finish everything. Sorry. So let me come again here. So I've done for general manager, I've done for Lekki. Let me just do for 2 more. I'll say the next one should be Ikoyi. So I'll say create new. Say Ikoyi manager. It's not case sensitive, but the spellings must be correct. That's the thing. So for the Ikoyi manager, from here, I'll go to the branch data. Can you see my 3 dots over here? I'll say add filter. I'll say branch, right? So for the branch now, since it's Ikoyi, I'll say Ikoyi, right? This is actually a static. This is called a static row level security, and I click on the checkbox, check. So let me do one more. I'll say one more. I'll say Ibadan manager. I'll say Ibadan manager, right? So for the Ibadan manager, same one, branch data. From the branch data, I click on the 3 dots, add filter, and I say what? Branch. And I remove all of these and I come here and I say Ibadan, right? So I check this, right? So I've created 4 rows here, right? I've created what? The general manager. I've created Ibadan manager. I've created Ikoyi manager. I've also created Lekki manager. So this is just a static row level security. So I want to click on what? After I'm done with everything, by clicking on the checkbox, that's verify DAX. This is just basically a DAX expression. I click on what? Save, right? So it's going to take a little bit of time to load. Okay, now so it has loaded, right? So let's now test the row and let's see if it's working. So I'll go to view as, right? So you can see my view as now, right? And let's want to view as the head of Ibadan now. If I click on Ibadan and I click on OK, what's happening now is when I send this report to the head of Ibadan, this is what the head of Ibadan will be seeing. That's the general manager for Ibadan. It will not see the entire data. But mind you, remember I created a complete report. A complete report was created, but now I've already created a row level security that, okay, when I send this report to the head of Ibadan, that's the general manager for Ibadan, this is the only thing it will be seen. You get, and I can say, okay, let me stop viewing as. I say, okay, let's see view as again. I say, okay, let's see if I was the head of Ikoyi. Let's say Ikoyi for now. Ikoyi, I say, okay. So basically, this is what the head of Ikoyi will definitely be seen. You can see, right? The entire information has filtered out for only Ikoyi, right? So now the next thing I want to do now, since I know that, okay, this is how it's going to be working. And also for you can see that there's also general manager, because general manager is like the head, so he does not have any restrictions. So he should be able to see what's the entire information. So that's just step 1. So step 1 is just basically creating like a parameter, like the row level securities. So you create your row level security in your Power BI desktop, but you can also create it inside of data marts. So if you are using a premium per user account on the Power BI services, you can actually create your row level security using data marts. And so now since we've created our row level security, now the next thing is for us to now assign it. We need to now assign the row level security. Let me show you like a small summary of everything. So you see how it works now. Right? Okay, so if I have this is my Power BI desktop here, right? This is the desktop. I've created all the charts and all the graphs, blah, blah, blah. Now I publish the reports to the Power BI services now, right? So this is my Power BI services. They call it Power BI web. Some people call it Power BI online. So this is my Power BI services, right? So now for me to assign rows for this, I have to assign rows based on something, which is based on the what? Employee email address. So for me to assign the role, I have to assign the role based on each individual employee email address, right? So now what happens now is that if I share whenever I share this report to people under my company's tenants, that's people under my company's organization, since they'll be viewing the report based on their email, that means they'll have to log into Power BI based on their email. The information will filter out for that email what branch is it, what management branch he or she is. So how does it work now? So the next thing I need to do now is I have to create a workspace in the Power BI services for this to actually actualize, because I cannot share the report from my Power BI desktop. I have to share it from my Power BI services. So what I need to do now, I'll go to my browser. So I'll just open my private one, right? So I'll say powerbi.com. So while this is opening, okay, just put my mail. Just give it a couple of minutes. I hope I remember the password. Password is it. Okay. Okay, yep. Okay. So now I've logged into my company's Power BI account, right? So the next thing I want to do now is I want to create a workspace, right? So workspace is just more where you keep your it's more like a container where it stores your Power BI report, your Power BI data set, and also your Power BI dashboard, right? So it's more like a container. So it's a container for your Power BI reports and some other materials needed for Power BI services. So if I come to my workspace here, so at your bottom left corner, you can see a place where to click on new workspace. I click on new workspace, right? So let me just name this workspace webinar security, right? So webinar security, and you can give it the description if you want, but I'm not giving any description for now. I'll go to my advanced. So if I scroll down, you can also put some specific members in your organization. Let's say, for instance, let me make Michael. I think Michael is on the call. It's part of, so I'll say Michael. So one of the beautiful thing about this is as soon as you type out the person's name, the entire information comes out. I can also say Ifine. Okay, Ifine has left. Okay, still here. I can say Ifine, right? So Michael, Ifine. And I have two licenses. I can either use the pro license or I can use the premium power user, but let's use the pro license for now. You can also create a template app, but let's just say save for now. So I'm going to save this report now, this workspace. So now I've created a workspace now, right? So this is a workspace. In Power BI services, there are two types of workspace. You have my workspace and you also have workspaces, right? So for my workspaces, for your personal workspace, that means you are building reports that you don't want to share with anybody. That's only for you only. But for workspaces, it allows for collaboration with other people in your organization. So now I've created a workspace called webinar security, right? So what I need to do now is I need to move that report in my Power BI desktop. I need to publish it up here. So I need to move it from my Power BI desktop to my Power BI services. So what I need to do now, go back to my Power BI desktop, right? I'll go to home. From home, can I say publish? So I'll click on publish. So it's going to take a little bit of time. So I'll click on publish, apply. I don't know why this. Oh, no. No. I don't know. Which one is, sorry, just give me a couple of minutes. I think there's a database called desktop. I don't know which one is it. Branch. This one, I don't know. Where's this one coming from? This one is coming from SharePoint. Let me just delete it. Sorry. This is another idea. I'm not even using it. So let me just delete it. Okay. Okay, let's wait first. Okay, let me just log in. Organization. Okay, connect. Okay, sign in. Just give me a couple of minutes. Come on. I think that one is pulling from SharePoint. So let me just connect to SharePoint. Connect. I actually want to delete it now. Let's see. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so it was loaded. Okay, cool. So let's go back to my desktop, publish, save, So I want to move now from my Power BI desktop to my Power BI services. So I'll look for the workspace I just created, which is, I name it Webinar Security. So I select Webinar Security. Microsoft always tell you something. Always verify that you're publishing to the right workspace, right? So I click on Webinar Security. I click on Select. So it's going to publish it. So it's going to take a little bit of time. So let me check the comment section. Let me see if there's any questions so far. Okay, I can see there's a question. Okay. Okay, so I can see, okay, people are still in. If you have any question, you can drop it in the chat box. Let me just check. Okay, someone is seeing the screen. Okay. So it's still publishing, right? So why is publishing, right? So the idea is I'm actually trying to move what is my Power BI desktop to my Power BI services, right? So it's called people used to call it Power BI Online. Now it has shown successful. So when I'm moving to my Power BI services, I'm actually moving two things. I'm moving the reports and I'm also moving the data set. So if I go to my Power BI services, you can see this is still empty. Sometimes it might be empty, sometimes it might be showing. Just click on refresh. Voila, you can see it has actually come out, right? So this is the first step, right? So the next step now is for me to do my security because I have to set in securities. So you can do security for multiple ways. You can go to settings and okay, this one is just for the normal settings. Sorry. For security, because I have to place a security on the data set itself. You can see two things are being published now. The report is being published and the data set is being published, right? So I click on these three dots and I go to security. Voila. Okay, now, so you can see now, because remember, I created the parameter of my role level security in my Power BI desktop, but now I have to assign individual roles based on their email address, right? So let's say, for instance, now I say, okay, the general manager should be, let me use someone that is not here. Let's say OP. So OP is our marketing person in the organization. So I say OP, I say add, I say save. Okay. Let's say another person should be Ibadan now. Okay, for Ibadan, now let's say, let me make Michael. Since Michael is here, I can even use Michael to even test it. So I'll say Michael, add in. Okay. Let's say someone in Ikoyi, let's say Tolu now. My colleague Tolu, add, save. One more person. Let's say Lekki. Let's say the head of Lekki should now be Faith, my HR, or you can call her our admin person. Diligent Faith, say add, and I say save. Right. Okay. Awesome. So now you can see now that I've made different people the head of different branches. Now I can see that the general manager is Hope. So Hope, the our digital person, she's a general manager. So remember the general manager could see all the information, right? I also have another one called the head of Ibadan, which is Michael. I also have another person, Ikoyi manager, which is Tolu, my colleague. Lekki manager is Faith, my HR, right? So now if I want to test how this works, so what I mean that if I want to test in the sense that if I share this report for my Power BI services to my colleague, how will they see it? So let's take for instance for Michael now, right? If I share this, no, Michael is the head of Ibadan. That's Michael Afusi. If I click on this three dot and I say test as row, so this is how I want to see the report now. So if I see, so this is how it will be showing now. Remember, Michael is the head of what Ibadan. So this is going to filter for only Ibadan. This is Power BI services now. This is not Power BI desktop anymore, right? And the beautiful thing is that if I share this report with Michael now, that's Michael Afusi, this is what he'll be seeing. Because why? He's logging in with his email address. That's the company's email. Because he's logging in with the company's email, he'll be able to see only this information. Okay, so that's a kind of security. It's actually a high-end security that it helps you. Like, okay, now Michael cannot see certain information because he does not have authority to see it. It's just the head of it's just the head of Ibadan. So he's only restricted to see what only Ibadan data. You get. So now I can also change it from here. And I can say, okay, let's see for Ikoyi. I say that's for Ikoyi manager. So you can see the data now is filtered for only Ikoyi. You can see this is how it's going to filter. So when I share this report with Michael, this is what he's going to see. So let's say I want to stop. Let's come back here. Let's say from here now, right? Okay, let me go back to the work. So this is the entire report, right? Since I've already I've done the parameter in my Power BI desktop. I've already assigned the individual employee, that's the individual colleagues in my company now. I've assigned them the different roles now. So the next thing for me is just to share. I need to just share the report. So I can come to share over here. And I can start saying, okay, I'll share for Michael. That's Mike. I can share for Faith. Faith. And I can say I'll share for Tolu also. I'm sorry, Tolu. I can see because I don't need to write the entire name because of since they're under my company's tenants. So it's something we call tenants, like in Microsoft 365. So if you're an admin of an organization, right? You've built an admin. Like if you saw like if you have this Microsoft developer account now, right? You're like the main admin. So you can actually put people under you. You can put people under you. So now for this organization now, which is UrBizEdge, I'm under Michael because Michael is the admin of this organization. So since all of us are under the same tenant of UrBizEdge, I don't need to type too much. If I just type Faith, Faith should definitely come across. She's under UrBizEdge. If I type Tolu, so if you are in the same organization now, I can just type some certain people in your organization and they should definitely pop out. I can just say, okay, let me just tell them, please ignore is for training purpose. So this is just for training purpose. So I just tell them that they should ignore. And I just do what? And I send it to them. So now what's going to happen? They're going to receive an email, and they're going to receive an email. With the email, it's going to show like a screenshot of the report. So as soon as they click on the link, it will tell them they should log in. So when they are logging in with that email address. And as soon as they log in with that email address, it filters for the information they're meant to see. So that's how the static role level security works, right? So now let's now talk about the dynamic role level security because the world is becoming more dynamic day by day. So let's talk about the dynamic role level security, and I'll see if you prefer that one. Okay, so since I've shared them, so that's what they will get the notification. I'm sure Michael would have gotten his, but I don't know if Michael is able to talk. Michael, have you gotten yours? Okay, I think he's busy or something. But that's what you would have gotten. Okay. So the next thing I want to talk about now is the dynamic role level security. So because this role level security, it is static. What I mean by it is static, because if I want to add another, let's say for instance, if I want to add another role again, I have to come back to the modeling view. I'll go to manage role and then create a new role again, which basically doesn't really make any sense anymore. So that's where the dynamic role level security comes to play, right? So the dynamic role level security is actually what is people are now using more. So for the dynamic role level security, you need two major tables. So I'll just explain two of them. So for the dynamic role level security, so you need two tables, right? You need the user table. So this user table, it basically contains a column with user email credentials, right? You also need the row table, right? Row table. So this one usually it is more like your dimension table. Dimension table containing individual rows, right? So you need two tables to achieve this. You need your user table. So the user table is going to have a column that has to do with name and email address, and you need your what? You need your dimension table. So this we're now going to create a relationship between the user table and the dimension table, right? But for this one to work, right? So in a simple sense, the dynamic role level security is more like you are creating filters based on table itself. So you're creating filters based on table itself. So you don't need to now start doing it manually, like you're putting a new row. All the filtering is done by what? A table itself, which is called the user table. So I'm going to go about that. So let's now start. So I need to import a new table called the user table. I think I have it somewhere in my laptop. I can just check. Let me get the exact place. I think I kept it somewhere because I'm coming. Just give me a second. Let me just get. Okay. I'm coming. Just 1 minute. Okay. Yep. I think it's this. Let me just confirm if this is it. I just want to confirm. Okay, I think it is it here. Okay, so if you look at the table now, it has branch column. So let me just go and get a CSV file. So I'll go to my home. I'll say get data. I'm looking for a CSV. So I get a CSV file. So here is it. So logged in table. Say okay. Right. Okay, so I'll just transform the data. Okay, so it's coming up. Okay. So for the login table, I'll use the first rule. As you can see that the first rule is meant to be the header. That's the branch, manager, and email. So I have to promote it up here, right? So I'll take it up. So I'll say use first rule as header. So I'm in the Power Query environment. So I have the branch, I have the manager. So I just created fake emails. They're not actually real image. You can see that it is Shay Gmail, Bola Gmail. So they're not real life email address. You get. So after you have done all of the transformation, just click on close and apply. And sometimes, right, one key things I tell people is whenever you're building a Power BI report, if you go to the file part, always make sure you off auto detect relationship before doing anything. So if I go to my file options, if I check, let it just come out. If I go to data load here, you can see this auto detect relationship, auto detect new relationship after data is loaded off it. Also off auto date and time. Also, you can check your regional settings to be English Nigeria. So I think this is all done. So I just click on what close and apply. So let me go back to my Power BI desktop. Okay, cool. So this has loaded. Okay, so I should have a new table called logged table here. Okay, so you can see I have logged table here. So I have the branch, I have the managers, I also have the email, right? So there's a function I will use. It's called the user principal name. So there's a DAX formula I'll use. It's called the user principal name, right? So this is just basically, this is used to return the name in a data that has an email address. So there's a function called the user principal name. So it helps for the dynamic. This is where the dynamic RLS comes to play. This is is mainly used. So it's mainly used for the dynamic RLS. This is where the dynamic RLS comes to play, the dynamic role level security, where you don't need to now start changing everything one after the other. You just, voila, it comes up. So how does it work now? So I have to first create a relationship between this one, which is called the logged in table, which is actually my user this thing table, right? That's my user row, and the dimension table. So I'll go to my modeling. I'll click on model. So I'll say new relationship. I'll select my logged table, and I also select my branch data. So my branch data. So what is common between both of them is my branch table, and one-to-one, that's each of them are unique, and both, that's cross filter is both at both sides. I click on OK, and I close this. So now I've created a relationship between both of them, right? So the next thing I need to do now, I need to create a row now, which is called the logged user row. So I go to my report view again. I go to my modeling. From my modeling, I go to my manage rows. So I need to create a new row. So I click on create. So this time around, I'll call it as logged in, let's call it logged in users or something, logged in users. So for these logged in users, I'm filtering based on the logged in table on my email address, right? So I'll just change this to a DAX function, which is called user principal name. I don't want to make mistake in the spelling, right? So user principal name, and I click on check, and I click on save. Okay, so I think this is working fine. So let's not test it now. So I can remember that there are some very funny emails. So I know that Bola is for Ikoyi, right? You can see Bola is Ikoyi email. You can see Bola over here. I made bola@gmail.com the head of Ikoyi, and she the head of Ibadan. So let's go back to my report. So I'll go back to view as. So I'll select others and logged in users. So I'll say Bola at gmail.com. So for bola@gmail.com, if I click on OK, it should show me only Ikoyi. Yep. Okay. You can see, right? So now the idea now is that I don't need to start creating those roles. So let's say, for instance, now another department or another region comes to play. Now I don't need to start coming back and say I want to create a new role for, let's say, Abuja manager. No, I just go to the data. That's the original data source, and I add a new role there. Like I add a. So what I mean by that is, if a new department comes to play now, like a new branch or a new region now, I don't need to come to these manage roles and start creating a roles all over again. I just come to what the that's the original data source, that's the CSV file. I'll just put a new row here as okay, maybe Abuja, I'll say Abuja, I'll say Peter Obi, I'll say obi@gmail.com or something. You get, so that's how it works. It makes it fine and makes it make more sense that way. So if I come here again and I say view as, I'll say others, I'll say logged in. So the next person that came was, I think it was Shay, right? So Shay@gmail.com. So remember Shay is the head of Ibadan. So if I click on OK, so I should be seeing Ibadan, yeah. And you can see, right? So now when I publish this report out to my Power BI services, I don't need to now start assigning. Just publish it to Power BI services, share it with the people in your organization. Since I've already created a table now that's dynamic now in nature. So when they try logging in with that email and I've already added them to that table, it just filters for you. You don't need to start doing all the role level security all over again. So I think I've explained the role and the static and the dynamic role level security. So the next one I'll talk about is the column and the object level security. So I can see there's a message. Let me just check. Okay. Yep. Yes. Okay, so I can see the question. So let's continue. So let's talk about another one. So there are other ones. So the next one I'll talk about is the column level security, right? And the object level security. So that's my, okay. So I have the column and object level security. Okay. So how does this one work, right? So it's, let's say this allows BI developers to filter or hide certain row, certain columns. You're basically dealing with columns, certain columns or table, certain columns or table data from the reports itself, right? So you can actually hide a certain column. Let's say, for instance, I have a data now that has different columns. I have column A, I have column B. Like I basically have multiple columns. You get what I'm trying to say, right? I have multiple columns. And I want to just hide just one particular column, which is my, let's say this, I want to hide this column, which is the total amount column. I don't want to see the amount sold. So I want to hide the column of the total amount, right? I can use what they call the CLS, right? It's called the column level security. But for the CLS, it doesn't work. So Power BI does not have its own default. So Power BI cannot undo. That's your Power BI desktop. Power BI desktop cannot undo CLS and OLS, right? So you cannot undo the column level security and also the object level security. You cannot undo it. So you have to use a third-party app So the third party app you use is called what? A tabular editor. So it's called a tabular editor, right? So it's more like, I'm sure some of you have used what they call the Dark Studio before, right? Dark Studio in Power BI. So it's in DAX rather. So that's how Tabular Editor works too. It's also a third-party app, right? So you can actually go online and download Tabular Editor. And let's say if I go online now, if I go to my browser and I say download Tabular Editor. Let's say I want to use version 2.18.0. So you can see, yeah, this is it. So this is the one you can just download, and you can just download the one. And it works fine. So you can just come here, download the MSI, download the installer, and it works well. So I'll just copy the link and I'll put it to the chat box. Paste it here. So this is the link. So you can download the tabular editor. So now when you install everything, you go to your external tools. You should have something here called the tabular. Look at my screen. I can say I have what they call, I have Dark Studio. I also have the tabular editor over here. So what I need to do now, I need to open the tabular editor. It's actually a third-party app. So now it has opened. So let's take, for instance, let's now filter for a column now, right? So let's say I want to filter based on column. Okay, I think I missed this step. Okay, before you do this part, right? Sorry, before you do this part, you have to first create a role for you to be able to use your row level security, your column level security rather. So you go to your modeling again. If you go to new, as your manage rows, so I'll create a new row. So I can name this one. I'll call it let's say public view. Let's say public view, right? So that's what's create as public view, and I'll say save, right? Save. Okay, yeah, save. So I'll just save this, and okay, cool. So I'll go to the external tool again. I'll open my tabular editor. Sorry about that. I just skip this step. So okay, so I'll go to the table now. Right, so this is a table now, right? And let's say, for instance, I want to filter something in the table. Let's say if I want to filter, I don't want the branch to show, for instance. Let me see the sales data. Okay, I can use the sales data cost of it's another 10. Let's say, for instance, I don't want the branch to show. So if I click on the branch, if I expand this branch now, right? I will say for this branch, I don't want the branch. It says if I click on this branch now, you can see branch here, right? So something will open at your bottom right corner, right? So if you go to your bottom right corner, you see what they call the object level security. Can you see the object level security, right? From the object level security, can you see this page what public view? I'll click on my public view. So by default, the settings are always set to default. I'll change this from default to none, right? Change from default to none, right? So I've hidden what? Everything in branches. So I did a, so that means since I've hidden the column branch, so if I go to my report, a chart that has to do with branch will not show. So now I've hidden a branch. Yeah, right. So I just click on save. So I have to save this. I'll go to my Power BI desktop, right? I'll go to my modeling again. I'll go to view as. I'll select my public view. I say okay. And voila. So anything, any of the information, any of the chart that has to do with branch, it will no longer show anymore. You can see, right? Anything, because this one I was branch against sales. I think this one was a map, right? The map that had to do with branch. So this one was also what that's hidden. You can see, right? So this is how you hide a column information. So because this report has the column branch in it, that's part of the exit was a branch. So it actually hides itself. Likewise, this one also, right? So I can stop viewing. So that's how you create a column level security. What about if you want to create a object level security now? So that's the next one we do now. The object level security now, that one is straightforward. You go to your tabular editor, but this time around, right? You go to your rows. I will select my public view. And this time around, I'll select table, that's table permission rather. So for the table permission, I will expand a little bit. So the table I want to set my filter on should be my sales data. So I want to hide everything in my sales data now, for instance. So my table permission, my sales data, I go to my default. So from that default, I'll change this one from default to what? None, right? And I say save, and I come back to my Power BI. That's my Power BI desktop, rather. I go to view as, and I says view as my public view. I say okay, and everything should disappear. Yep. Because everything here has to do with the sales data. Because the sales data is actually my fat table. That's my major table. That's where I do most of my calculation. Oh, that's how I identify a fat table, right? So everything has disappeared from here. You can see, and that's how the column level security works. The row level security, the object, the dynamic, and the static. So it's very, very easy. It's very, very easy to do. So I can stop viewing. And the last one I'll talk about now is access now. Access control in Power BI. Okay, I can see there's a message somewhere. Let me check. Okay, here. Yeah, yep. Okay. Okay, so I think we've done this part here, right? So the next one I'll talk about now is the access. I'll talk about the user access control, right? So if I go to my Power BI service again, right? I go to my security. I go to this is my security, right? My Power BI services rather. I go to the workspace. So this time around, let's go to the access, right? So this one is another way of creating security, right? So there are multiple ways you can create access to your data using the workspace access. So this one is just like a workspace access. So people that have access to the workspace. So there are different roles in the workspace. You can see that there's the admin role, there's the member role, there's the contributor role, and there's also the viewer role. So if you go to our website, we actually have an article on this. If I go to your UrBizEdge blog, right? So our recent article that was released by my colleague Tolu, she talked about all the different workspace assets. You have the user role and when to use it and how to use it. So let's just give it a couple of minutes. So let me just accept this. Okay, so these are the different roles, so the collaboration and everything. So if I open this, it's loading. Just take a minute. So Tolu actually I talked about everything that has to do with the different workspace access, like the contributor role, the member role, the view only, and the admin role. So you can check our article on it. So I'll just copy the link and post it to the chat box. Okay, how do you access and control your workspace? That's very easy. So now from my Power BI services now, right? So for my Power BI service, you know that the first thing is when you create your workspace, you have your workspace over here, right? So how do you now access the workspace? So if can I see go to what access? This part here. You know in your workspace, you have two things you publish to the cloud. You have what? You publish what? You publish your what? Your reports and your what? Your data sets. You put your role level security in your data sets, right? So this is why you put your role level security. But for the assets, that's people that have access to the workspace. That's contributor roles, admin roles, and other roles. Just come to this assets over here. You can see now there are different members now. So if I click on, let's say I give Michael now. Let's say Michael, that's my boss now. It's going to look as if we're under the same company standard. If I say Michael now, I want to give him admin, there's admin rights, there's member right, there's contributor right, there's viewer rights. I want to say, let me just give him a contributor right. So contributor and members are basically the same. The only difference is that one can create an app, one cannot create an app. So I think contributor cannot create an app, but members can create an app. So that's just the only difference. So when I click on Michael as a contributor, I click on add. So you can see that me, I'm Temidayo, right? I'm the admin because I was the one that created the workspace. Michael is my contributor. But this is not a good way of sharing report. This is just another level of security, but this one is just for developers only. So most times I will not advise you to come to the access workspace area to share a report. Because of why would I say that? Why would I say that is that it's not a best practice to share report or to create security from this way. It's not right. It's not best practice to create security using assets because Most times in most standard organizations, only 2 people that have workspace access rights. Most times, usually the Power BI developer and maybe the head of department or the head of admin. So apart from those two, the rest, every other body, just share them the Power BI report and create your role level security from there. You get. So that's how you just go to the workspace assets. But for the role level security, from your data set, you click on this 3 dots over here. Can you see security here? But from your security here, to take you to the security settings. So you now start giving people assets based on their email. Now let's say, for instance, the general manager, let me make it to be intern. I think we have an email called intern. So I made my intern now the general manager. I just click on add. So now the intern is the general manager. I click on save. Right? It's going to take a couple of minutes to load. So as that is loading, right? Okay, yeah, that's loaded, right? Okay, awesome. So if I want to test it now, right? I click on these 3 dots, go to test as rows, and voila. Okay, it's a general manager, so general manager can actually see everything. Okay, so general manager can see everything. I've forgotten. So for Ibadan now, apply. Ibadan shows, right? So that's just how you use the row level security, and also I've explained the dynamic security. I've also explained the column level security, the static. So another thing you can also do is to protect your workspace, right? So let's talk about protecting your workspace. So Microsoft recommended something that was like 2 years ago called the Power BI apps, right? So this way, because when I'm sharing my reports, I'm sharing when I'm sharing my report, I'm sharing my report from my workspace. You remember, if I'm sharing reports, I'm basically sharing reports from my work space. So Microsoft created something that's Power BI. Microsoft Power BI created something called Power BI apps, right? So Power BI apps is like a separate entity from the workspace where you just share only the report. You don't share the workspace because you know the workspace contains what the data and the report. But now you only share only the report. So it's another level of security, right? So most times I tell people if I'm sharing report now to multiple people in the organization, I rather share a Power BI app rather than sharing the report from my Power BI workspace. So how does that work now, right? For my Power BI workspace, can you see there's a place where they wrote what? Create an app here. Can you see create an app over here, right? So if I come to create app, very easy. You can put a description. I say, okay, webinar sales reports. Okay. I can upload a logo. Let me just upload. Let me give your business logo. I think I have your business logo somewhere in my system. Okay, yep. So your business logo. Wow. And the team, I'm a big fan of green. I like green actually. So these are just some things. You can actually add some contacts and some other things, but let's just leave it as show app publisher. Can leave all this one as default actually. Go to next. So let me put the content I want to see in my app. So I can say add content. So I can add everything here, right? Say add content. And this is something I didn't say. If I've created a dashboard, you also see a dashboard to be part of your add contents. So I click on next. Okay. You can see, right? So this was going to go be for people in my organization. And I can also add specific people that want to have access to this report, right? So when I'm done with the whole report and everything, that's like I add audience. I just click on what's publish app. I click on publish app. It'll take a couple of minutes, but when it publishes, so it has published. So I just copy this link and I send to people in my organization, or let me just open the link in an empty browser. And wait. And voila. So it's opening, and voila. So you can see how this is how it's showing. It's showing as a what? As an app. So it's shown as a Power BI app. So this is another level of security. Now, if you don't want to share report from your workspace, rather you can easily share report from what? You can easily share your app rather than you sharing report from your workspace itself. And it's actually very, very nice. It's actually very nice and it's cool. And so that's how it is and that's how it works. And I don't think so. In your Power BI service again, if I go to my apps here, I'll see all the apps I've created. You can see I've created this app. This is the app I just created, which is called Webinar Security. And that should be all. Let me see. I think there's questions. Let me see. Okay, no questions. So that's all. That's all. So I'll stop sharing my screen. So if you have any question, the floor is open for questions now. So if there's any question, Tadesi, I was able to answer your question with the workspace to give access and control to the workspace. Was I able to answer your question? Can put yes in the chat box. And also we talk about so if you have any questions, just raise your hands up. Okay, I'll send it. I'll make the source data. I'll make the source data available when I'm uploading it on YouTube. I'll make the source data available. I'm coming. I'm trying to understand your question. Let me just make you a speaker so you can speak. That's Sandy Bay, right? So Sandy Bay, so I think you can speak on Sandy Bay. So Sandy Bay, that's where the
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So the roles, you created roles in the desktop, and then you assign. We have to publish, so like a sequence of events. You create roles in the desktop, then you publish, and then in the workspace you assign emails. Is that correct?
Yes,
that's the sequence.
Yes, you're correct. That's the sequence. So that there's actually different ways of doing it. So that one is actually like a static way, right? So that's why I actually showed you the dynamic way. So with the dynamic way, right, just by having a table. Let me share my screen in a couple of minutes. Let me share a screen just a little minute. So for the dynamic way, right? Because now for the dynamic way, what I only need now is just a table, which is called my user access, right? Like my user table, right? So that table just has email. You can see there's an email now in it. So I don't need to now start going to my Power BI services and start assigning them based on email, because now I already have a table that has email in it. So I don't need to, I always use the function called the user principal name. The DAX formula called the user principal name. So that one is more dynamic. It changes. So when they log in with their email address, which if I had someone, but remember I said this information they are fake people, they're not real people. You get, these people are actually fake. These emails are not correct emails. So if I have someone in my organization that his name is shei@gmail.com, what I want to do is just to share him the reports. As soon as it tries to log in with the email as shei@gmail.com, it will filter for what? Only Shei, and Shei is what? Shei is under the Ibadan branch. Is the manager of Ibadan. You get, so it's only going to filter for the Ibadan branch only for him. You get the logic, right? So that's how it works. So with this method, with the dynamic method, I don't need to now start creating the role. Like now, what Sandy Bay said, right, is that I create the parameter, the role levels parameter on my desktop. I publish to my Power BI service and I assign them. But with the dynamic way now, I just need to use a function called the what? User principal. Create it on my desktop, publish. I don't need to assign. I just need to share the report. And as soon as they're logging in with that email, that's the email that's in this table here. Anybody that has this email in this table here is going to filter out for the respective what? Branches and respective location. So that's how the dynamic level security works. So that's why this two I showed you two. I showed you the static, I also showed you the dynamic level security. So let me check. I can see there's still more questions. How do we collaborate? And oh yeah, you're welcome. So how do we collaborate and work together with other teams? So yeah, that's where the user assets come to play now. So for the user asset, right? That's this one here. Okay, let me just go back to my workspace. And also Microsoft released something early this year. I don't know if you heard about it, the deployment pipeline. So it works with the old CI/CD, the old continuous integration, continuous deployment for people in DevOps and all those app development. So we have the CI/CD, that's continuous integration and continuous deployment. So it's under the deployment pipeline in Power BI. So for the deployment pipeline Power BI, it has three phases. You have your test. Oh, sorry. You have your production stage. You have your test. You have a test stage. And you have your deployment. You have a deployment stage, right? So this is more like a standard practice when you're having multiple people collaborating in, but I'll still answer your question, right? So for you to be able to use this feature in, that's the deployment pipeline, you have to have the PPU, that's premium per user license, that's premium per user license in Power BI. Yep. So for you to be able to use this feature, you have to have so this is just a standard practice, right? You have your production stage, you have your test stage, you have your deployment stage, right? So this way, right, it helps you in when someone is building a report, you don't have any mix up. So for the production stage now, I can have multiple Power BI developers in this stage. You get? I can have multiple Power BI developer in this stage. That means I can have Power Developer A, B, and C. So for me to have multiple Power BI developer in this stage, that's where I've done what they call the access. So I would have added multiple people in my workspace access. What I mean by workspace access, I would have given them access rights such as I won't give them admin. I will either give them member, that's membership rights, or contributor rights. So with this, right, different people in your organization can now work on that same Power BI report real time. I know that now you can now build your Power BI, you can now work on Power BI report on your Power BI services, you know. So what I mean by that is that if I come to my workspace, I think, where's the workspace? Where is the workspace? Okay, here it is. Yep. If I come to this workspace, if I've already assigned role, that means I've already given Michael now. Michael now is a contributor now. I can say, okay, let's call Tolu now. Let's say Tolu now is Tolu is a member now, right? I say add, right? So now Tolu is a member. So Tolu now will see. Are you listening? Tolu will see this workspace, this webinar security. She will see this workspace in her own Power BI account. So if she logs into Power BI services, she will see this workspace in her Power BI account. This particular workspace, which is called webinar security. And she doesn't just go to the report itself. I think you can now do modeling now. I know now you can do, there's a new feature now which allows you to do Power BI modeling. I've forgotten where I can get it from, but I know you can do your modeling now, your Power BI services. I think I don't know where it is. But anyhow, so if you just come to edit here, right, it gives you the same features as your Power BI desktop. Now you